So how do we know we're living our best life? Today I'm going to inspirit you with a story about my father, who at the age of 37, I truly believe was living his best life. There was a newspaper article written about him at this time, about an upcoming show he was having at a Toronto gallery of his silkscreen pictures. It is through that article and a conversation I recently had with him in January that I'm going to prove to you that my father was living his best life. My father loved process. He loved taking the seed of an idea and thinking about how to make that seed grow into something tangible. Now, we all have many seeds growing in our field. My father did as well. He had a family, he had friends, and he had a job. But there was one seed that was unique. It was a pure fulfillment seed. It was his art. When my father created art, he was at his natural best. When my father created art, he was in something that I like to call the process of pure fulfillment. So what is the process of pure fulfillment? It is grounded in purpose. My father, every seed my father had planted was grounded in purpose. Purpose is what is in your heart. It is the cause that you wake up every day to fight for. A purpose statement is the vocabulary for what is in your heart. It is the action you're going to take to create the impact you want to have for others. But it's also what we seek more of for ourselves. So, the process of pure fulfillment is grounded in purpose. And in this process, we are at our natural best. So what does that mean? What does it mean to be at our natural best? One, our natural abilities are in harmony. My father could navigate his way home by the stars. He could figure out any problem with a mathematical equation. He was so gentle in his approach, and he was full of ideas, and he loved to learn. I said to him, "Why did you start making art?" And he said, "I didn't intend to. It just happened." Making art was easy for my father. When we are our natural best, we are able to hold our authentic voice. We're able to create a space for vulnerability, uncertainty, and we are open to criticism. And in that space, we are able to keep the external and internal voices of shame and unworthiness out. The pure fact that my father had an idea and it ended up on the wall of a gallery means in this process, he held his authentic voice. Meaningful connection. My father built every single piece of equipment used to make his art, including this huge board that had these precisely drilled holes in it. And underneath there was a don't ask me how, there was a vacuum attached to those holes. And when the vacuum was on, it would suck the paper to the table so it wouldn't move when the paint was applied. It was my job, being the smallest, to sit under the table and turn the vacuum on and off, on and off, on and off. My sister Jennifer was next to the table, lifting the screen up and down, up and down, up and down. And my sister Wendy took the final print over to the drying rack to hang it up. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. My father would have joked that it was child labor, but it was a labor of love. This is how he showed us he loved us. That's how he showed us. And there's another type of meaningful connection when we are at our natural best. It is the one we don't even know that's happening. Kath, he said, "I just about died when someone I didn't know bought one of my pictures." and openness. When we are our natural best, we are open to new ideas, and we are open to learning new skills. In the article, it says that my sisters and I used to come to him with ideas for pictures. And there was one, I don't know which one of us did it, but said, make an apple. He made an apple. We ended up giving it to our teachers, and it ended up being one of his bestsellers. Skills. My father knew he didn't have the natural ability of color. So he went back to school and he learned about color. Far fields look greener is just an exercise in color. He wanted to take two complementary colors and make them fade off into the distance. But remember, my father was grounded in purpose, to simplify the complex so we could understand. That would have been his purpose statement. So what is he telling us here? It's a warning. Far fields are not greener. The richest field you are in now is the one where all the seeds you have planted are. And that you must evolve from field to field with the seeds that you've already planted. And you actually never get to the greener field. Process of one just isn't the only complex idea that my father tackled. He tackled life. So this newspaper article is amazing because he explains to the writer what each stage of life that this means. This is our youth. And we dissolve as our values dissolve when we are trying to discover our identity. We end up as the square, and then there is another upheaval. And then we come to terms with ourselves. What's so interesting about this painting is he doesn't explain to us what the second upheaval is. He hasn't been there yet. Fast forward a few years, and my father decides to plant a new seed. He plants the seed of entrepreneurship. He's going to start his own business. And I know that that business was grounded in purpose. He was doing it for others. But something happened. That seed couldn't grow. He couldn't engage his natural abilities. He couldn't hear his authentic voice. He couldn't make meaningful connections. And he started to close. The business world was not ready for my father at his best. And the seed started to develop a shell of shame and unworthiness. Now, when most of us have an idea that doesn't work, we put it aside and we keep nourishing all the seeds that are in our field. And then those seeds nourish us, right? They nourish us and they relieve the shame and unworthiness that we're feeling. But my father couldn't do that. He took that seed and he planted it in the greener field. He broke every connection to the seeds that he had planted. And the most important one, the one who reminded him constantly of who he was at his natural best. So, my father lived in that field for 40 years. He lived in upheaval for 40 years. My father, if you were to meet him, you would think he was a perfectly functioning man. And he was even labeled, he was given the reward of being the free spirit. But to me, the free spirit has no direction. And when you have been purpose-driven for the first half of your life, and all of a sudden you find yourself purposeless, it is painful. We could see the pain when we saw him sitting in his eyes. The tears would sit there, but they wouldn't come down. And then we got the call, because every good story has a call. At the age of 84, his girlfriend had decided that she would like him to move out. So at 84, my father was homeless. So my sisters and I, because we loved him, we knew he loved us, we packed his bag, we packed his tools, and we packed his pictures. And we found him a condominium, and we set him up. And it took him a few months before he would allow us to hang those pictures on the wall. And once we did, staring back at himself was him at his natural best, in the process of pure fulfillment. And that seed started to soften. The unworthiness and the shame started to go away. And he started to come to terms with who he was when he was lost for 40 years and who he was at his natural best. Can you imagine the relief he felt when he realized that the legacy we were going to continue for him was of him when he was at his natural best? Unfortunately, we had to move our father into assisted living, and he tried to connect with people there. He really tried, but it was too hard. So he made the decision to stop eating. And that is when I went and had my conversation with him. And I said to him, Dad, if you could be anywhere right now, where would it be? In other words, what would your best life look like right now? And he said, back in the condo, thinking of a picture called Waiting for Death. My father was back into the process of pure fulfillment, simplifying the complex for us. He was doing it for us. But unfortunately, he didn't have time to make the picture. Thank you.